Let me introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker understands something that many leaders are feeling right now. The problem that we are facing is not a lack of ambition or intelligence or ideas. The problem that many of us are facing is distraction, overload, the constant pressure of trying to keep up in environments that never seem to slow down. Angela Pointer has spent nearly 30 years helping leaders and organizations improve their focus, their alignment, their execution in high demand industries. She is a leadership strategist, a speaker, founder of AP Solutions LLC. She is a Maxwell Leadership Certified Coach, speaker, and trainer. She began her career as a registered nurse before moving into executive leadership and talent acquisition. And this gives her a unique perspective on both people as well as performance. She is serving currently as the president-elect of the National Association for Healthcare Recruitment, and she's known for helping professionals move beyond busyness and into meaningful results. She is also the creator of the 24-minute leadership method, a framework designed to help leaders cut through distraction, regain control of their time, and execute with greater consistency and clarity. So today's session is going to be relevant for anyone who feels pulled in so many directions or stuck perhaps in reactive work mode. In her presentation, Win the Day in 24 Minutes, a practical system for focus, execution, and real results, she is going to share a simple but powerful system to identify what truly moves outcomes towards your future, how to structure your time with intention, and how to create measurable progress, one focused block at a time. It's not about doing more, it's about doing what matters most. So please join me in welcoming Angela Pointer to the summit.
Well, good morning, good day, good evening, whatever time you are joining the Women Who Lead Virtual Summit. I say welcome to you. I'm Angela Pointer, and I am so excited to get the opportunity to share something I'm passionate about, and that is winning. We could also call this session Women Who Win. Because women who lead are women who win. If you agree with that, put win in the chat for me. I think you're able to do that even though this is pre recorded. I am so honored. I'm so thankful for the Stronger Together team for having me. I'm privileged to join such an illustrious panel of speakers who will be pouring into amazing women over on this day for the virtual summit. So thank you for joining us. Let's go ahead and get started. If you've ever ended the day exhausted, constantly busy, and still feel like the most important things didn't get your best attention, guess what? This session is for you. As women who lead, we're often balancing professional expectations, emotional labor, caregiving responsibilities on whatever end of the spectrum that you are either caring for small children or aging parents. You're constantly accessible. Everybody needs to know where you are, and that's all visible. And then the invisible mental load. Many women, as women, we have become highly efficient at reacting, but disconnected from intentional execution. I'm going to pause here and mention something about the word or the right before a word dis. And when dis is in front of a word, it actually means that you're pulling away from whatever it is. So in this case of disconnecting, what you're doing is you're moving away from being connected. So what I'd like to do is to change that and let's move towards intentional execution. Busyness has become normalized today and even celebrated. People are talking about how busy they are. I need to have a jar in my office for every time I hear the word that I'm so busy, or I get emails sometimes and people say, "Oh, I apologize for the delay. I've just been so busy." One thing that I have said many times is that I'm trying to eradicate what I call the four-letter word that starts with a B and ends in a Y, and that is busy. You know what? We're doing a lot of things, and the goal isn't to cram yet something else into your schedule, but it's really the opposite, to create more intentional rhythm about how you lead, how you work, and how you live. So I'm going to ask you to do something that I know is incredibly challenging, especially in this virtual environment, and especially with all the interaction, the interruptions and interactions we have. But I'm going to ask that you give yourself fully to be present for the next 24 minutes. I realize not everybody can do that, but if you are able to, I ask that you close your email, turn off notifications on your devices, all of them. Put your phone down. Now, we will do something at the end that I will ask that you can use your phone for. But for right now, if you can, put your phone down. Close other windows that you may have open if you're on your computer. Get by yourself if you can, and just give yourself these next 24 minutes. I'm going to, if you do that for me, this is, I think, is going to be helpful for you as we help you with focus and execution. And if you are going to do that with me, I will ask that you put I pledge in the chat. That's why I have pledge down there. If you're able to do that, or either say it out loud to yourself, pledge yourself to these next 24 minutes. So, speaking of 24 minutes, how did it all begin? I'll actually tell you a little bit about me and my story as a woman who leads. I have been in formal or informal leadership roles for the most part most of my life. One of my mentors, John Maxwell, says that leadership is influence, really nothing more, nothing less. It's not about a title, and I say this all the time that yeah, a leader can have a title, but that doesn't really make you a leader because some leaders don't have titles, but they truly are a person of influence. So been leading for quite some time as a teenager, student body president, all that kind of stuff in student government. I am a preacher's kid, even though I'm not going to get into that this is not a faith-based seminar here, but I will say that as a preacher's kid, I was teaching the adult Sunday school class as a teenager. So I've always been used to being in leadership roles. And then as I've later matriculated and I've been able to lead teams professionally. So been doing all of that. So a little bit about me. I am a registered nurse by background. I have this year makes almost 30 years as a registered nurse. I tease people and say I started when I was 2. But I have, in those almost 30 years, 18 months was as a bedside nurse, as a cardiac nurse. I did that. And then for the next 9 years or so, was in various roles within the home health and hospice space. And then almost 20 years ago, or actually right at 20 years ago, I stumbled literally into the world of healthcare recruitment. Started as a nurse recruiter and then moved on to leading talent acquisition teams in a number of different organizations and settings for about 20 years. And then at the time of this recording, about a year ago, I did something very different for me, took a huge leap of faith to launch my business. And when I did that, I experienced something that I was really a little foreign to me. And that is on day one of business, it looked completely different from corporate life. There were no standing meetings on my calendar. I had a blank calendar, didn't know what that was like. There was no overflowing inbox. Actually, my inbox was empty. There were no constant team messages. I honestly forget what that sound used to sound like when you get a Teams message. I used to get it all day, every day. So I did. So I know packed day already decided for me, and honestly, it felt pretty strange after years in healthcare and talent acquisition. I had become so conditioned to being in constant motion. So this silence felt uncomfortable. Honestly, it really did. And so one day while out on a walk, I started thinking about what actually creates progress. Also, I'm going to take a side journey here. I promise I'll come back on my little rabbit trails. But I became very intentional about my mission and my purpose in life. And this is something that I will encourage every woman who leads to do, and that is get clear on your mission. What is it? Or be able to articulate it. I have to say that I've been a part of seminars and things in the past where we created mission statements, and honestly, it didn't stick. I did it for the activity and then never really looked back at it. The one thing I can tell you now is I am absolutely crystal clear on my mission. I remind myself of it every single morning, as I did this morning, and that is to use the time, the talent, and the treasure that I've been given to make a meaningful impact in the lives of others. So that's my mission, and I was clear on that for me personally as well as for me as in business. So when I started thinking about that first T time, now that I am in a different place now with my schedule, I wanted to be intentional. I didn't want to just now start filling it up because I am a person, I will say this, my parents didn't believe in raising lazy children. So I'm always doing things. Always having something to do. So I have no problem with filling my calendar up, but I wanted to do that intentionally. I didn't want to be reacting to everything and just having just a marathon of work sessions and repeating what I had been doing for 20 years. But I wanted to have intentional focus. So that's where the idea came from for 24 minutes. Just thinking about small blocks of time. It's not something that's rocket science, and it's honestly not something unique. There's other talks and different things out there, books about being intentional and about small blocks of time. But for me, that's where I got the idea of 24 minutes. I actually wrote a book. 24 minutes to win the day. And I have to say it's been more than just the writing of the book, but it's become a rhythm of my life. I started at that time experimenting with intentional 24 blocks of time that would move what mattered to me most. And I'll talk a little bit about that in some of my personal experiences as we go through our time today. But what I discovered though was these small blocks of time really do compound into meaningful results. That's actually how I wrote the book. I did it in 24-minute increments with writing for 24 minutes, taking a break, and then repeating. And that is what the 24-minute method is: focus, break, and repeat. Not about doing more, but about becoming intentional with attention, energy, and execution. So let's meet Emma. She is a high performing leader who woke up early, determined to finally get ahead of the day. Before her workday even started, she'd already been leading, getting the kids ready, checking on family, managing schedules, responding to personal responsibilities, thinking about what everyone else needed before considering her own needs. That was it before the workday. Then the workday began. Before her coffee was finished, was answering emails, responding to teams' messages, reviewing updates, solving problems, supporting the team, putting out the fires. That sounds so familiar to me. My name is Angela, but I can relate to Emma here. By 10 a.m., she felt busy, maybe even productive. But when she paused to look at the priorities that actually mattered most, that strategic work that only she could do, really none of it had moved forward. And you know what? Many women leaders, that's the cycle we're in. Constant motion, constant availability, constant responsibility. If that sounds like you, put constant in the chat. Honestly, and it's okay because we've all been there. We're leading at home, we're leading at work, we're carrying the visible responsibilities, but also some invisible mental load simultaneously. But we have very little time to think, to lead intentionally, and reflect on what and execute on what matters most. So you know what? What is the problem with productivity today? I saw this stat that was really kind of alarming to me from Gallup's in 2024. Two things: 41% of employees globally say that they experience a lot of stress the day before. That's really that's really disheartening. And then 58%, so more than half, describe themselves as struggling, suffering right now rather than thriving. In other words, you know what? The modern day of work isn't working. I'm going to pause one moment and take a sip of water. One thing, and it's a big mindset shift for us to make, and that is understand whether we're women leaders or in any, whether you're leading yourself, leading others, or leading leaders, understanding the difference between busyness and progress. As I've already mentioned, we've become as women and women who lead, we've become skilled at managing all the different responsibilities, professionally and personally, responding to everything, supporting others, holding it all together. But constant activity doesn't equal intentional leadership. So that's one thing to think about. I know that I've had colleagues that say talk about, oh, how busy they are, how many meetings they had, all that kind of stuff. But you know what? If you haven't moved anything forward, you really aren't executing. And so one thing I think about is that it's not really, the issue isn't about capability. Really, it's fragmented attention. And so when you think about, like, I don't even like to use the term time management because to me, I don't think it's a time management issue. It is more of an attention management issue. Leaders don't need more hours in your day. We only get 24. I don't get 28 because I have more going on, or you get 21 because you have less. We all get the 24. But what we need to do is be intentional about the minutes that we do have. So that's where the 24-minute method comes into play. Nothing rocket science here, very simple. Simple framework of focus, reset, and repeat. It's a sustainable rhythm to move you from busyness to execution. And honestly, it's not really a productivity hack. There's a bunch of those out there, but this is really more of just a rhythm to get into. So the first part of it is focus. That's 24 minutes of protected time to focus on one block of time to focus on one particular thing. You're not multitasking, which multitasking is a myth here. You're focused on one thing and one clear outcome. What could that look like for women leaders? It could be strategic planning time, prepare time to prepare for a difficult conversation, financial review time, whether your personal or business finances, career development. This is one thing I think is important and a lot of people don't do as they should, is to invest in yourself. Take 24 minutes to read, listen to a podcast, listen to a webinar. Personal goal planning, another thing to be doing. Writing, that's what I do. Writing or thinking. I have to say something, another thing about one of my mentors, John Maxwell. He talks about having a thinking chair. And I do have a thinking chair in my home, and I will take time to do just that. Sit there for 24 minutes and actually think. Again, that I'm gonna keep repeating this, is that you don't need endless uninterrupted hours to make progress. What you need is intentional focus. So that's the first thing, focus. Now, the next part is to break or reset and normalize recovery versus considering it a luxury. People, oh, I'll take a break when I have time. Actually, it's not a luxury for you. Recovery or taking that time to break and repeat is something that you shouldn't wait to do after you're burnt out and then want to reward yourself. It actually becomes a part of sustainable execution. And then lastly, it's just a repeat. Small intentional rhythms build momentum. I saw it as I was writing the book. The book has 24 chapters. I was doing 24-minute increments, and I was beginning to see progress every time I had my 24 minutes, my break and repeat. And here I want you to know that consistency matters more than intensity. So it's not about you don't have to go hard for 2 hours. Just go hard for 24 minutes and then take your break. Again, the model here is focus, break, and repeat. So why 24 minutes? It's actually some practical, psychological, and symbolic things here. First, it's just alignment with the day. As I mentioned, every day we're given 24 hours. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. And by choosing 24 minutes as a unit of focus helps us to link our daily rhythms to intentional practices. So one 24-minute block is like a microcosm of our day. It's also a little distinctive from the ordinary. So 24 is very intentional. It's not 30, it's not 15, it's not 25. 25, I know for those of you know the Pomodoro default. Great, great method and great model. I'm not knocking that at all. I just took a minute off of it. So it's very distinctive and very intentional. And there's also some symbolism here. Of course, we already talked about 24 hours in a day, 24 time zones circling the globe, 24 keys in classical music. You could probably go on and on with kind of finding the symbolism in 24. It's also just short enough. There's something psychologically approachable about 24 minutes. Behavioral research shows that when goals feel attainable, motivation rises. We hear 24 minutes and your brain can think, hey, I can do that. That sense of doability lowers resistance and makes starting easier. And you know what? A lot of times, starting is the hardest part. And as I mentioned, it's intentional in design. So, what I'd like to do now is give you three keys for winning your day. So, one we'll start is three things. One is to get clear. Know exactly what matters today. One of the biggest reasons I feel women leaders are overwhelmed is because they begin their day reacting before they even get clear, before defining what are the priorities for the day. We're already responding to emails, messages, meetings, requests, doing all the things, both at work and at home. And the problem with that is this: if we don't decide what matters most, guess what? The loudest thing around you will decide for you. So before your day fully takes off, pause to ask yourself what truly matters today. What outcome would make today meaningful? So that's your first bullet here. And your first key is to get clear. Clarity creates focus. And many women, as I'm going to say this almost like a broken record, is that you don't need more time. You need more focus to be able to move forward. And when you get clarity, that's about your time and where your energy should go. Then once you're clear, you can move to the next challenge, and that is protecting your attention long enough to make progress. That's where you get focus, as we talked about that 24 minutes. We live in a culture that rewards constant availability. All the things like I mentioned, the things I asked you to kind of turn away from if you could, the notifications, the emails, etc. We're skilled at all the interruptions, but managing interruptions is not the same thing as making progress. So focus requires protection. That's the whole point of the 24-minute method is protect that 24 minutes of time. Not forever, not all day, but just one intentional 24-minute block at a time. Deep focus is where strategic thinking happens. It's where meaningful work moves forward. And it's where leadership moves from being reactive to being intentional. So I know we say there's 8 hours in a workday, and that's fine. And we don't need 8 uninterrupted hours to make progress. What we need is protected moments of intentional focus in those 8 hours. And then once you've gained clarity and focus, then the final step is execution. And that's get moving. That's your third key. E, execute consistently instead of overthinking. And as women, we are good at overthinking. We carry a lot of enormous pressure to do everything perfectly. But we over prepare. I don't know if you can relate, but I can. You over prepare, you delay decisions, waiting for all the right things, waiting for all the lights to be green. But we wait until we feel fully ready. I won't do this until I'm really together and I've got it all together. But progress rarely comes from perfection. Progress comes from movement. Small intentional actions repeated consistently create momentum. One focused conversation, one strategic decision, one protected work block, one healthy boundary, or one next step. That's how momentum is built. And often confidence doesn't come before action. Confidence grows because of action. Again, you don't, and I will say this, you don't need to overhaul your entire life to start making progress. Simply, all you have to do is start moving intentionally. So, speaking of moving, I want to leave you with one final thought and something that you can put into practice tomorrow if you're not doing it already. And that is to begin with the end in mind. So, these, we love these things, don't we? Our phones. I have to tell you, I had an experience this week where I was traveling out of town with a group of people. And so I wasn't driving, was riding with other people. And I realized when I got into the vehicle, I left my phone at home. And I was going to be gone all day and I was without it. And I didn't have time to go back and get it. And it took me a few minutes to get myself together and realize, oh my goodness, how am I going to function today? But after just a few minutes, it just became so freeing for me for the entire day to not have my phone. And it was kind of weird because I'm so used to having it. And then nowadays, everything we do on our phone. Like, for example, we had a break and I was going to go to Starbucks because I have the Starbucks app on my phone. I have my money there and I'm like, oh, I don't have my phone to get Starbucks. I guess I could still have done that, but my point is, we love these things, and I don't our phones, and I don't remember what do we do without them. I think I may have been in college when I got my first phone, but then they became smart about 20 years ago or so. And you know what? With these phones, I will say that for many people, and me included, that's how our day started. Before we even hit the floor, before we're thinking intentionally, before we're reflecting, planning, breathing, we react. Emails, text messages, LinkedIn, news, notifications, all the things. Excuse me. I don't know if you can relate to this woman in the picture. That was me in bed with my phone before my day starts. And I will say that there's nothing wrong with that per se, but I want to challenge you to do something a little different. And that is to not start your day that way, but start your day with the end in mind and think about telling your day how it's going to be instead of responding to your day. Now, when I made that change, I stopped allowing my phone to determine the emotional, the mental, or even the physical direction of my moment. I no longer start with my day with reacting to my phone. Now, mind you, I know we use them for our alarms. I use that. I also have it on my watch, but I don't start immediately with my phone and reacting. And this is something I've noticed by a quote by Stephen Covey I'll mention. Begin with the end in mind means to start with a clear understanding of your destination. It means to know where you're going so that you better understand where you are now, and so you understand the steps you need to take to be moving in the right direction. So I encourage you, your pro tip here is to give your first 24 minutes to taking charge of your day. That's the pro tip for you. Maybe for you, you might not be able to do 24 minutes. I know I'm a morning person, so I can give 24 minutes easily in my first day because I don't just immediately go into the day. Others, you may you only get up in 24 minutes to get what you need to get done. So maybe it's 12 minutes, maybe it's 6 minutes, whatever it is. I want to encourage you tomorrow to begin with the end in mind. And before you start reacting, be intentional about your day. If you can do 24 minutes, great. Whatever it is that you can do, do that. And so do have one thing I will leave you with. And this is if you take this link to this quiz, this is a self assessment and it's really a self awareness guide. It is not a test. There's no right or wrong answers. It's not about judging performance, but it's identifying patterns. So, and you will get, it's a very short 10 question assessment. You get results, and these results aren't a reflection of your effort. It's just a reflection of your execution consistency. So feel free to click the QR code or use your phone. Now you can pick up your phone and you can scan that QR code and take that assessment, seeing where you are with the focus quiz, and you're able to get information on not only your results, but a personalized action plan to move forward. So thank you so much for your time. Here is my contact information. Happy to connect with you offline to help you win your day. Thanks so much and enjoy the rest of the summit.
Thank you so much, Angela, for sharing your wisdom with us today. What stood out to me immediately after hearing your presentation was your ability to pour into us with both wisdom and practicality in a way that really felt grounded and actionable. I believe that that is exactly what we all experience, right? In a world that is filled with constant distraction and pressure and overwhelm, conversations like this, it reminds us that leadership is not just about working harder. It's about learning how to focus our energy, lead ourselves intentionally, and create more meaningful progress without constantly operating in reactive mode. So, thank you again for sharing your expertise, your strategies with all of us today. And for everyone who is joining us, I want to encourage you to scan the QR code on the screen, use the link in the chat. Take advantage of this free gift that she is sharing with you today. And again, if you have any questions for her, use the Q&A box, put your question in, and we will send it to Angela. She will respond to you directly by email. It's also a great opportunity to stay connected with her and continue learning from her work. Thank you again, Angela, for coming and speaking to us today. Thank you so much for joining us here at the Stronger Together Summit.